Okay, and we are recording. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the webinar. We're very excited today to have Joe Campagna speaking on a very timely topic. Obviously, today's news was a bit disconcerting as we have the highest unemployment rate since the Great Depression, so I think this is a very timely topic. Pungello CPA has been getting a lot of requests for information regarding this, as have a lot of accounting firms. It is a challenge. There's a lot going on in this space. There's a lot of lack of resources in the state of New Jersey, state of New York, a lot of uncertainty going on with this process as well, and a lot of confusion, especially when it comes to independent contractors versus employees, laying people off, and also the HR rules that surround all of that. Even though this is an unprecedented time, those laws and rules are still applicable. So it's times like these where you want to turn to an expert in order to have that kind of advice. So without much further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Joe Campagna. He has a presentation he's going to walk us through. Again, feel free to email me questions. We'll try to address as many as we can, but we will follow back up with everybody afterwards to get them those answers, either an in-person discussion with Joe, a follow-up email, whatever is going to be needed to provide you with that assistance. So, Joe, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I want to thank Vinny for hosting and bringing this all together. This is something I've been dealing with day in and day out for about a month and a half, if not more now. So I am going to share my screen, see if that is going to work. And there we are. Let's try that. Okay, so I'm going to start the presentation here if I'm able to do that. Can everybody see my screen? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I am going to, let's see if this works. All right, so first a disclaimer. I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I am a human resources professional. So everything that you see today, and I would assume this goes for Vinny as well, this is a general information presentation. So don't take it as gospel. Don't take it as anything legal or financial or accounting, not expertise, but advice. If you do have a specific situation, then please reach out to Vinny or myself or to your own licensed professional for that specific information, because everything is different according to circumstances. So that's a disclaimer. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm just going to introduce the topic. We'll go over the current state of unemployment insurance. We'll talk about self-employment eligibility, because that's big, and then how self-employed people can get into the process. We'll talk about the important pointers dealing with employee claims if you're an employer. And if you're an employee, I can touch on that as well. And then dealing with employees who don't want to return to work, and then we'll take some questions. So I'm going to go through pretty fast because we don't have too much time. We have limited time here. So I want to breeze through. There's a lot of information here. Feel free to take screenshots or whatever you need. It is being recorded. My name is Joe Campagna. As Vinny introduced me, I own a company called My Virtual HR Director, and we do human resources outsourcing and consulting. So we act as the unemployment department. Yeah, we act as the HR department for small and medium-sized businesses, or we come alongside existing HR departments and help them out. In doing that, we deal with unemployment management. So we're dealing with all the claims, all the employees going and doing the appeals, taking calls, all of that stuff. So everything that I'm presenting today is professional and experiential. I know I already gave the disclaimer, but I also want you to know that I don't represent the Department of Labor. I don't represent the unemployment process or the unemployment workforce department, nothing like that. This is from my experience, from colleagues' experience, talking with, we represent just under 1,000 employees in terms of client employees. And so we have dealt with furloughs and unemployment and layoffs and all of these things for, as I said, a good long time now, due to COVID specifically, but also prior to that. So we're aware of what it was and what it is now. And so again, all information is subject to change because it literally changes daily. The DOL decides to update things and we just have to go with it. So that's the way things are. That's where we're at. So I want to talk about the state of unemployment insurance, and I don't know if we have anybody who is from the Department of Labor on the call, or unemployment division, anything like that. If you are, feel free to chat me. I'd love to be corrected if I'm wrong on anything. But this is, again, my experiential and anecdotal work in this area. So the basics of New Jersey unemployment is that anybody who is out of work for no reason of their own can get 60% of their average wages up to a maximum of $713 a week. And that is now up to 39 weeks. Normally it's 26 weeks, but because of the Families First Act and the CARES Act, it's now 39 weeks. New York, I don't know if anybody's from New York. I just threw it in here. I'm going to basically be talking about New Jersey today, but I am familiar with New York because we do have New York clients and employees. And so if that's something that you need some answers on, I can talk to you either as a one-off or later on at the Q&A. New York is a little lower. They have a maximum of 504 per week. It is up to 39 weeks. Some of the websites are not up to date and they still say 26 weeks, but according to the state government, it is up to 39 weeks now, and it's calculated using a different calculation. It's not the 60% that New Jersey uses. What everybody probably knows is that the Federal CARES Act has created the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. We'll call it the PUA just for short. Everybody is, or PUA. I've even heard either way. It doesn't matter. It is Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. And it provides an extra $600 per week for up to 13 weeks. And that's through the end of July. And that means that everyone who is eligible gets the full 600. It's not like New Jersey where, okay, you were making this much, it's 60%, or New York, there's a calculation. This is, if you are eligible for the federal funds, then you will get the full 600 per week. And it extends the benefits to those who would not normally be eligible. So that means the self-employed, partially working, those who are out sick or disabled because of COVID. There are other options there as well. I'll touch upon those, but for the most part, unemployment can be used for those things as well. But self-employment is the big one because that's new. That we'll talk about that next. So here's what we've seen and heard. This is up until today. This is from talking to claims examiners, the people who are doing these calls and appeals and processes and everything that's still going on. They are working from home, and they are, they're working hard. I will say, unemployment isn't always the friend of the employer, and so we often are, in an adversarial relationship or communication with them. But I have to say they're working hard. They are working 7 days a week. That is not published, but that is from knowing that I'm having employees and employers called on Saturdays and Sundays for unemployment information, to get claims rolling, to answer questions. They are being as responsive as possible. I also just read they have hired 130 new unemployment admin staff, so people who are doing these calls, doing the claims, and they've also apparently taken hundreds of employees from other departments outside of unemployment and brought them over and trained them. So everybody's working hard. It's be patient with them. It's not their fault. Mail is, and again, this is as of my last communications with them, mail's not reaching them in any practical way. So as far as I know, and I'm going out on a limb saying they're not getting mail at all. So a lot of the claims that employers are getting and returning their forms, it's going somewhere, but there's no one there to get it. I don't know if it's being distributed. I don't know how long the lag is. One unemployment employee told me it would be months before they're getting their mail. That was a few weeks ago, so I don't know. There is no phone support. Now, that is not the official statement of the Department of Labor. They have phone numbers. If you want them, I can give them to you. They are mainly useless. You can try, it's just nobody is getting through. I haven't talked to anyone who has proactively reached out to unemployment that got through. they are calling you with, when needed, but no one that I know has gotten through. It doesn't mean don't try. I'm just giving you, again, the landscape. Online access has been hit and miss. They have said that they've updated it and that things are better now. I've heard that anecdotally, but I still hear people getting, kicked off, whether it's their own internet, who knows, their computers or whatnot, but it's still spotty. And it's slow, and sometimes you get through a lot of work on a claim and it just kicks you off. So be patient. And so claims and certifications, well, certifications mainly now are scheduled by your social security number. So if you're going to apply, if you have applied, you have to look for the schedule. I can give that to you as well. I don't want to put it up here because it's getting into the weeds, but there's a schedule by your social security number of what day of the week you call and what time of the day you call. So you have to be on top of it. You have to be proactive because you can miss a week and then you have to wait till the weekend, and it can become a nightmare for you. So, self-employed eligibility as of April 29th, because this is when things changed. Before April 29th, things were different. You just applied to unemployment in general. But as of April 29th, they are specifically ready for claims from independent contractors, self-employed people, gig workers, 1099s, all the different names of the same thing. People who have their own business or work in some self-employment. Generally, again, this is my guidance. It's unconfirmed. There's a lot of things changing, but generally you have to have had a loss of income or business of about 20%, whether it's income, whether it's volume. Again, nobody is saying, nobody's checking. Right now, things are just trying to get processed. So if you're going to apply, you have to, at some point, show that there's a need. So the general consensus, the way it was before COVID, was that if someone was reduced 20% or more, they were at least eligible for partial benefits. So that's kind of what we're using that guideline right now. Now, they don't ask you for documentation when you are filing a claim. I should say, by the way, that other than having employers and employees that are going through this whole process, my wife is also self-employed and has significantly lost a lot of her business. And so we've gone through this process. I've seen it firsthand. And so I also have that kind of firsthand knowledge. So I can tell you that at least as of about a week ago, they were not requesting Schedule C 1040 P&Ls. However, I would say you should have that as backup, right? Be printing these things, be getting it ready, because if they call, if they want to see some documentation, if they need you to scan it and send it, you got to prove that you need this at some point. We're expecting that to happen on the back end. But again, with the volume, they're just trying to be responsive right now. You cannot collect both unemployment and the PPP loan. So if you got the PPP loan, stop unemployment, don't take it, give it back, whatever you and your tax professional feel is right, but you can't do both. So that's an important thing. Also, you can't have disability and unemployment. Now, the state may catch that with things the way they are, they may not. So don't go for both, go for one or the other. My unofficial advice is disability. If you are eligible for it, does pay more at this point. So that may be a better option if you are legitimately disabled. And you cannot use unemployment for federal paid sick time. However, you can use it for COVID sick time. So time that you were away from your business because of COVID can be reimbursed by unemployment. They are allowing that, at least as of, again, publishing of this presentation. So the claims process. Now, if you applied before April 29th, you were applying just as a normal employee, like everybody else has in the past. You either have or will be denied that claim. That was billed as the first step to getting the federal unemployment. And so you had to go through this process. Now, if you were denied your claim, or if you haven't seen any review or denial of your claim yet, you will, again, if you applied before April 29th, you will go through the process. They will automatically kick you up, even if you were denied. So it doesn't mean you're out. If you applied for this, you still can get the federal, if not the New Jersey. It just had to go through that process. So you will be asked to certify. You'll get an email. You need to check your email, check your junk folders. It's not always something that you're going to look for, so you have to be aware of it. Go in there, find that email from unemployment, and they will give you when to certify, how to certify, all that good stuff. And then I'm going to show you what to do once you have that. And as far as we know, the payments for the PUA started Tuesday, May 5th. So the first batch, those who had kind of applied before the 29th or got in right away, once they opened it up for self-employed, that should have started on Tuesday, May 5th. So if you're in that group and you haven't seen that, then you may have some questions for unemployment. Okay. So if you haven't applied yet, there is detailed guidance on how to do this, and it's from the state, and they're being super proactive, I'll say, in helping you to designate your benefits and make sure that you're eligible. So that doesn't mean that they want you to game the system or anything, but if you go to the link that I have here, you can, again, screenshot this, or we can send it to you. You can get the recording of this this presentation, but follow the directions in this link. It's a PDF. Print it out, have it with you as you go through the questions, because if you haven't gone through unemployment before, if this is something that you're not familiar with, I will say, as I told you, my wife has gone through the process. She was in tears. She is not a financial person. That's not her business at all. And she just couldn't figure things out. She has a master's, so she's not an uneducated person, but this can be overwhelming. So print out this PDF, follow it, and use their answers. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about right here. So this is a screenshot that they're giving from the PDF, right? And so it shows you, it'll point a big arrow right to the field that they're talking about. And it says, if your self-employment has been affected by the coronavirus, select no. So even though the questions may be somewhat confusing, or you're not sure, or you don't want to lie, and you're not, you want to be on the up and up, they're telling you what they expect you to put in there. Again, not to be gaming the system. If you don't need this, don't apply for it. But if you're self-employed and you need this, use this PDF. It tells you exactly what to do. These are the answers that will get you the unemployment, at least for the federal. Now, if you've applied after the 29th and you're denied your claim, you will have to do an appeal. So if you were denied before, don't worry about it. But if you have applied on or after April 29th and you get a denial, don't take that as, oh, they're just going to kick me to the next level. You should do the appeal, because that's what they're saying. That's what the guidance directly from them. But appeals can take a while. They can take weeks even. But the appeal should at least get you to the next step of getting the federal PUA and that $600 a week for the 13 weeks, or as long as you qualify. Again, patience is the virtue to have in this whole process. You can pull your hair out, but have patience while you're doing it. So some important pointers, and I know I'm talking fast. We're going to have some question time. Hopefully I'm on target. Vinny, you can tell me to speed up or slow down if we need to.
No, Joe, you're doing great.
Great, thank you. So the important pointers here are that to remember that unemployment is taxable. While you may be dealing with PPP or other EIDL loans, or all of these grants that are coming out, this is taxable. And so when you apply, you can usually, and again, I haven't seen the updated new process, the new online form, but normally you can elect to have up to 10% withheld for the federal taxes. That's only federal, it doesn't count for anything else. But that normally will not, again, for most people, cover your full tax burden. So figure it out with your tax professional, talk to Vinny. get the guidance on what you should be doing, what you should be putting away. Just know that, hey, this isn't a windfall of $600. There's some taxes that should be taken out, and that may be your onus to do. Again, be honest, right? Because we expect a lot of audits and a lot of clawbacks. And when I say clawbacks, I mean, in normal good times, non-COVID times, I'm the guy who's getting money back from employees because employees put in a claim. Unemployment usually assumes that they're in good faith, and so they start paying an unemployment claim. We'll then appeal it because that person we feel is not eligible for it. Sometimes they win, sometimes we win. If we win and the Department of Labor decides that they were not eligible for unemployment, they are on the hook to pay that money back. And I've seen employees who have $3,000, $5,000 bills because they took the unemployment, they either lied or didn't represent themselves well or whatever it was. They have to pay that money back to the state. And so you don't want to be in that place. Just, again, be honest. Don't double dip. We already talked about that. You know that. And keep good records so that, if you have, again, any kind of business decline, losses, you can show income discrepancy, all of those things. We expect to see, at least on a random basis, the Department of Labor, when things settle down, coming back and saying, okay, who tried to get one over on us? And again, maybe that doesn't happen. It's been very, very liberal. But for the most part, the state doesn't like giving away money to people who don't deserve it. And so we just want to make sure that everybody's aware that this isn't free money. If, you're thinking you can just take it and get away with it. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but we definitely don't recommend that. So if you're an employer and you're dealing with employee claims, our read right now, as I said, they're being very liberal. So we think that most claims are going to be successful. That means that doesn't matter if they resigned, if they said, I'm not coming to work, I'm afraid, I'm sick, whatever it is. The Department of Labor right now, the unemployment division, is being very liberal and giving people the benefit of the doubt. That doesn't mean they'll get away with it in the end, but it's just the way things are right now. And so, employers need to strive to not look like the big bad employer guy, meaning don't be overly protective of unemployment at this time. Now, I understand that there's a cost to it, but you also have to understand that people are super sensitive, and you've seen that. I don't have to tell anybody that. This whole world is surreal right now. So just be careful of that. However, be alert for fraud and invalid claims. It doesn't mean you can't appeal. If you fired somebody for performance and now they're trying to collect unemployment, well, I think you should appeal. I think you should at least put in the documentation, make sure that things are going the way that they should. Now, appeals are going to take a super long time because we're just not seeing that happening or being processed anytime soon. So just be aware that you have to get the documentation in now. There are all kinds of deadlines. Those deadlines will be softened. Again, that's my opinion. And from what I'm seeing experientially, they'll be softened because of the mail, because of emails and fax and everything else. But try to get everything in as soon as possible. Don't wait until COVID's over and then try to appeal, because you may lose any appeal right on its face. So document emails with the employees, communications, letters to them, anything that you've done employment-wise, any performance issues. If they resigned voluntarily, document that. Doesn't mean they won't get unemployment, but you can still appeal and see what happens. Now, employees who are on partial furloughs or restricted work hours can collect. So if you're getting unemployment claims in the mail for employees who are still working for you, or who are still working for another employer or whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter right now. It's, again, as I said, if they're reduced 20%, whether in work time or compensation or anything really, as before, there was a special process to go through. Right now, everybody is just, if you've been reduced in any way, you're pretty much eligible. So just fill out forms, send them back. It's, again, do the documentation, but you're not going to get these people off of unemployment because they're still working if they're not working full time, what they were before COVID. Now, the other thing is that no one is saying that these unemployment claims will not count against you for your tax ratings during the COVID pandemic. Now, the federal probably will not. That's a separate funding. It's different. But New Jersey unemployment or New York unemployment is still going to go against a rating that you have, which tells the government how much they should be collecting. So expect unemployment taxes to go up. And if you do have fraudulent claims from employees, you should be addressing them because it's going to cost you. Again, it's pennies on the dollar, but if you have a lot of employees or it goes for a long time, it can be costly. If you get to a point where you're dealing with employees who don't want to return to work, the current guidance, what's published, is that those employees should or may lose their unemployment benefits. Now, we put a big question mark on that because we're not seeing that. Maybe it's a lag. Maybe they're just being, courteous right now and letting people do what they're going to do. Maybe it'll change in a week. I don't know. But we're just not seeing that that the unemployment division is caring that much about those who are not wanting to come back to work, especially when it comes to the federal. The New Jersey is one thing that may be something that they kind of tamp down on. But for the most part, the federal, everybody wants their $600 a week. And so a lot of employers are even saying, yeah, go ahead, collect. I'm not going to, stop you. So there's a lot of issues around that. But having said that, anybody with a valid reason, if an employee says, hey, I live with my 93-year-old grandmother, or my wife has cancer and is, immunosuppressed, or those kind of things are probably going to be valid reasons to stay on unemployment and not come back to work. If somebody says, I don't want to get on mass transit, that's questionable. Some governors have come out and addressed that and said, well, that's really not a good reason. Doesn't mean that that's policy. It's just what they're saying. So, all right. So I'm going to go through. I see our time is coming to an end. Again, get any refusals in writing. So if you want someone to come back, if you have the work for them, they say no, send them a nice letter. Say, we're offering you the time. We're offering you this job. You can tell them that it's a voluntary resignation if they say no. If you don't want to lose that person, you don't have to do that. But either way, get in writing, get them to sign or email you or something that they do not want to work. They want to stay on unemployment. That way you cover yourself. You can always give that to unemployment. There's no obligation for you to reach out proactively to unemployment, but you can if you want to try to stop or lower that claim. Okay. So that's pretty much it. I want to go through this. I put some resources here for New Jersey. The next slide is for New York. I'll give you some time to screenshot that. But really at this point, if there are any questions or anything that I haven't gone through or questions that came up, Vinny, you can kind of moderate here and let's see if we have anything.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you so much for that information. It's a very dynamic process, and I think making it more personal with your wife, what she's going through, because I know the clients that I've been calling us, are maddeningly frustrated with what's going on, and there's not a lot of people to talk to. Obviously, unemployed people are doing the best they can as well, but when you run into those little glitches, things happen, it gets held up. It can be a very frustrating process, especially when you're not in an office or you're home and there's no one to talk to. So appreciate that fact. I think one of the questions that was popping up, and again, we're going to try to address as many as we can in the limited time we have. We will reach out to everybody and get your questions answered. When applying, and I'm not sure if this is too specific, Joe, but when applying for unemployment as an independent contractor, who do you list as an employer? You'd be listing yourself, or would you look to list the largest client you work for? Well, what is it?
It's you and your, whether you own a company or just work out of your home. I believe the guidance actually even says it in that PDF. You put yourself, your own address, your own company, your, whatever structure that you have. Yeah.
Okay. What is the difference between an invalid claim or a claim with zero benefits?
So a claim with zero benefits has basically been denied. It means that you're in process. If you applied before April 29th, so that's a good thing. That's the way that they're going to tell you that you've been denied and are probably going to the next step. If that's happened and you've applied since April 29th, that means you're being denied and you need to appeal it. An invalid claim means you probably had some type of wrong information. You didn't put all of the information, maybe you didn't answer something, maybe they want to talk to you. They usually will email you and let you know what they need, if you need to talk to someone, if they have questions for you. But you have to wait. Again, you can try to call, but you basically have to wait for them to reach out to you.
Okay. Excellent. And I think there's a couple of questions related to PPP and unemployment. We may have to take that offline as a follow-up because that can get a little bit complicated. Again, you know, we'll reach out. Please feel free to email me those questions specifically. It might require more of a detailed and specific response to your specific needs. I know Joe and I, when we speak on a frequent basis, you know, a lot of the general stuff that Joe was talking about is really designed to give you the information necessary to, one, realize you're not alone through the process, that everyone's kind of going through it, but two, that, you know, everyone's situation is a bit specific. So it's good to have that kind of guidance to get through that, minimize the frustration, and then just to keep on top of it as well. So I think we are in a good place. I'm trying to see if there's any other quick questions we can answer. We will be sending out a copy of this meeting recording. We'll be posting it. We'll be reaching out to everybody so they can view it again. You know, to hear Joe and to maybe generate some different ideas. And for the professionals on the line as well, Joe is available for discussion privately. For your specific situation. Obviously, my virtual HR director, a great company, Pungello CPA, has been working with them now a couple of years now. Joe, you've been kind of putting up with me.
Yep.
On a daily basis. So, and we're also very happy to have Liberty Payroll. Josh, a partner for Pungello CPA, is on as well. So glad to have him here. Again, there's also overlays a bit into the payroll world. Again, we don't have time on this call, unfortunately, to go into detail, but happy to you know, bring him to the table for future events to discuss the implications for, you know, managing your payroll. Obviously, this ties directly into HR and benefits. And as an employer, for the employers out there, please don't forget those laws are still in effect. The requirements are still there. You still have to understand fully what you can and can't do, even if you're closed or even if your employees don't want to come back. Make sure your employee handbooks are structured. Make sure you talk to an expert. As you can tell, Joe's very easy to talk to. He's got a tremendous wealth of knowledge. And that's why, you know, Pungello CPA, you know, we refer that to Joe to get those questions answered. So he's been a great resource for us, and we very, very much appreciate his time. And again, everyone, we will be sending out the copy of this presentation. I've been trying to accumulate as many questions as possible. Feel free to email me those offline, and then we will look to have more of these webinars in the future. So, Joe, thank you very much. I'd like to thank everyone for attending as well, and look forward to seeing everyone in the future. Please be safe, and we will get through this together.
Great. Thanks,
everyone.
guys. Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Very helpful. Thank you.